Sir, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, Mosley. Thank you for reminding me. It is a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome Siva Swaminathan for this very special episode of Diabetes Bytes. As you all know, we are in the middle of the Defeat Diabetes campaign, and we have almost completed 60 days. And today is very, very special day as we have a very special guest from Canada, who is our own who is our own person. She is right now living in Canada and working for the Diabetes Canada also. Let me introduce Shiva Swaminathan. She is the executive chair and one of the founding members of the Diabetes Canada South Asian Diabetes chapter in Toronto. After being in the IT field for 12 years, she decided to pursue her dream of being a chef by attending the George Brown Culinary Program, where she worked with many Canadian top chefs. She apprenticed in Germany and Switzerland for 2 years and now operates Shiva Cooking School, which offers a variety of cooking classes and services. It is you would be she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 15 years ago, and she has been using her culinary skills to develop low GI healthy meal plans for people with diabetes. Shiva has been a volunteer with Diabetes Canada since 2006, where she organizes and presents information session on diabetes prevention and management for the South Asian and type 1 community. She has also been the driving force behind several diabetes expos for the South Asian community and played a key role in developing culturally relevant patient literature. She has won a number of awards for her work within the diabetes community and is now working on her next dream, which is authoring a cookbook. So it is indeed a great honor and pleasure to invite Shiva for this special episode of RSSDA Diabetes Bytes. Welcome, Ms. Swaminathan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mitgupta. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So let me just start this conversation by asking you that we launched this campaign, Defeat Diabetes, and you have been advocating diabetes since 2006, and you have been working, doing a wonderful job for Diabetes Canada. So how do you see this campaign? And welcome, Dr. Ashish. Ashish is also a very good friend of mine.
Hi, Amit. Hi,
Hello.
Shiva.
Hello. Such a pleasure.
Ashish, I just introduced Shiva to our audience, and I was asking her for the other audience who have joined us for the first time. Let me introduce Dr. Ashish as well. Dr. Ashish Chopra is a very, very good friend of mine, and he is being a really great support for this Defeat Diabetes campaign. And he himself is living with diabetes, but he never shies away he always turns up whenever it comes to advocacy for people living with diabetes. Welcome, Ashish. Welcome, Ashish, on the show.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much.
Ashish. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to be with you and be part of your global campaign.
Start the conversation. I am just connecting with Dr. Bansi for a second. Please start conversation with Shiva. Give me a minute, just.
Yeah, I'm also just getting my Bluetooth on. Give me a minute. So, Shiva, finally, how wonderful.
It's such a pleasure to see you in a different platform, and again, speaking about our passion and our work on diabetes. What a great morning here for us in Canada to have this conversation across the globe.
Thank you so much, Shiva. Wait just a minute. There are a lot of disturbances that are happening when the call is coming. Sorry, now I can hear you. Can you hear me clearly?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so this is a slight technical glitch that we have today. So Shiva, it's wonderful to have you here. And as you know, food plays a very integral and an important part in everybody's life, and more importantly for us diabetics, because we have to be very careful.
Yes.
You and I are suffering from diabetes for many years.
Yes.
You are 15 years, I am 20 plus years with diabetes, and I have been on insulin for 24 years precisely. Both of us use the insulin pump, and also, unfortunately, both of us are in a catch-22 situation where How are you, Dr. Bansi? Good to see
Hello,
How are
you.
you,
Dr.
Anil?
Sadhu.
All good, good.
Such a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Sadhu.
Yes.
Dr.
Hello,
Bansi,
yes,
please
Anil.
meet
How are you?
Chef Shiva from Canada.
Oh, yes. How are you, Siva?
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Vantri Sadhu. It's such
It's
an
all our
honor.
pleasure. We welcome you on this Diabetes Bites from RSSGI. I'm
Thank
sorry I'm being late. Hello, Purvi.
Hello, Dr. Purvi. How are you? Good to
Hello,
see you
Dr.
again.
Purvi.
Always
Hi,
a pleasure.
good to see you
Yes, Ashish,
all.
you can continue. You were talking something related to pump, I think.
Yeah, no, not just pump. We are talking of the common passion which both Shiva and I share. And of course, Shiva's a trained professional chef, and she's been launching her campaign where she's making and supporting cuisine which is low with low glycemic index. And she's very well researched in the art. And she's also very much an integral part of the Canadian Diabetes Association and South Asian Diabetes Association. So Dr. Amit Gupta has introduced her already, quite a celebrity in Canada. Uh, she has a lot to share, I personally feel, for us diabetics, more importantly, because food plays a very important role, as we all know, in for us diabetics. And we diabetics not only have a sweet tooth, we are also very fond of food, but sometimes we lose control when it comes to food. But Shiva is of the firm belief, and I endorse her, that you can eat what you want, but you must know what to eat, where to eat, at what time to eat, and how to eat, because and what combinations to have, because combination of food plays a very important role. If you're having carbs, then you must make sure that you don't mix proteins and carbs and other things together. I mean, this is my personal experience. So over to you, Shiva. Please tell everybody, a wonderful audience that you have, we have here, because this is a major campaign, and I'm happy to be associated with RSSDI, supporting them. And I think we diabetics have to play a very important role in encouraging other diabetics to make sure that they take care of themselves. And we have all the top doctors to support us. What else can we ask for? It's a win-win situation for us diabetics, more importantly, more than anything else. So I think over to you now, Shiva. Please go ahead, and then of course then I will get Dr. Amit and Dr. Sahu to take over from there.
Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful introduction and summarize, putting the diabetes in perspective. Absolutely. One of the key things that often, is misguided is we are told that carb is is demon for diabetes, and unfortunately that is not completely true, because there's so many trendy diets out there, and we need to really be careful. But at the end of the day, carbohydrate gives body the energy, but the difference is to be able to separate the carb away from sugar, because we put lump them all together, because we eat healthy carb, because Indian diet, South Asian, Indian subcontinent, we have access to so many healthy ancient grains. And unfortunately, modern, agriculture practice and the food production has completely changed the way we eat. So we have convenience of food, we have convenience of many things. So carbohydrate gets a really bad rap. So I think what we need to do is to figure out how to eat our carbohydrate, because everything we eat has carbohydrate except meat and vegetables and fish. So then we need to kind of think about, re-engineering the way we eat. So instead of demonizing carbohydrate, we need to be able to make the carbohydrate work for our body. Because as soon as a person with diabetes, whether you're challenged with type 1 diabetes or type 2 or pre-diabetes or gestational, when you ingest carbohydrate, it quickly breaks down into sugar. And then what happens is our body controls that sugar into high GI and low GI and how the food is processed. So this is where the engineering of eating healthy carbohydrate comes in. So if we are going to eat roti, making it brown with more fiber. So if you're going to just make it with atta flour, it is just not good. But in the same meal, then we have to kind of look at, is there rice in it? How much carbohydrate is in that, in that plate? How are we going to slow down the carbohydrate so that our body could digest that carbohydrate better, so we get even blood sugar. So it's all kind of that engineering. It's intuitive that I've been kind of studying that for the last 15 years, and I kind of use my body as a guinea pig, because as soon as I eat, I'm South Indian, as soon as I eat idli and dosa, I can see my blood sugar go crazy. So the idea is to make it engineered so that it is digesting slowly and evenly, so that you are feeling full, but at the same time that the food is healthier for you and it's a healthy carbohydrate. And then we're going to balance that meal with some yogurt, some nuts, some fruits, but healthy fruits, so that maybe a half an apple. But the idea is to have our macro and micronutrients coming together to balance each meal. And then one big word I'll introduce today is portion control and fiber. Those are key to controlling our blood sugars for diabetes.
I think you have very rightly pointed. Meanwhile, I would also welcome Dr. Rajiv, who have joined us from Mumbai, and he is one of the key persons behind the Defeat Diabetes Task Force. Welcome, Dr. Rajiv.
Thank you, Amit.
Shiva has joined us from Canada, and
Hello,
she is
Dr.
representing
Rajiv.
Diabetes Canada. And Shiva, I just
Welcome
want
to the
to.
show, Mrs. Swaminathan. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Shiva,
I just want to ask Siva one
Yes,
thing.
please
That
go ahead.
suppose we are
Please.
giving as you are chef, as a professional chef, and when you serve the food, is it possible that along with that, we can give the calorie along with how much carbs it contains and how much of that is a simple carb is there? So is
Absolutely.
that, each and every dish, can it have simultaneously the total calorie, what is the carb content, and out of that carb content, how much is the uh, complex carb? I mean, that is what. If we can have along with the fiber and protein, then it will give you the overall glycemic index. Because two things are very important in diabetes. One is the glycemic index of the food, which we are totally what we are taking,
Yeah.
and then the glycemic load of the food. Because we are
Yes.
not eating only one thing. We are eating roti, we are eating along with the sabji and few more things. So, the overall glycemic load of that plate, what I am eating in a dinner, and that how much it will going to have a glycemic index. Now, if I am eating two roti with lot of vegetables and salad, probably the glycemic index of that same roti will be less. But if I am eating only roti and chawal, the glycemic index of that food will be very high, because both items are only carbs. You are not eating the fibers or protein in that diet.
Absolutely, Dr. Banshee. But what I wanted to say was, in that plate, if we're going to have two rotis, depending on the size of the inch of the roti, then the sabji has to be also counted, because if you're going to have dal in it, dal has good protein, but dal also has carbohydrate in it. So you have to account the sabji as well. So the idea is that when you have your meal, whether you're having two rotis, depending on the style of roti. And then I guess the size matters too, is the sabji. Are you going to have aloo in it? Is there going to be dal in it? Or is it going to omit, potatoes and lentils? Because when we have, our pulses in it, pulses have protein, which is fantastic if you're on a vegetarian diet, but also it has carbs. So the way to look at the food is total, not because when you're diabetes, end of the day, if you're looking at weight loss, and looking to lose weight, it's end of the day, the principle is calorie in, calorie out. That's the bottom line. But when you have diabetes, the idea is looking at the carb value and then the fiber value. So you're looking at the fiber value in the roti, fiber value in the sabji, and then you take all the available fiber in each dish and you add them together and you subtract from the carbohydrate. So that is the amount of total carbohydrate that you're having for your meal. Because for general population, it's really hard to understand the concept of GI index and GI load, because for them it's like, hey, if I eat a mango and an apple, is that acceptable? But we know the mango has more sugar than the apple. So the idea is we need to kind of think about food in terms of just categorizing them as sort of high, medium, and low. And if people can have just sort of a bit of guidelines how to kind of navigate through that. So, if you're going to have your breakfast with some, a cup of yogurt, that's fantastic. But instead of having a banana that's going to ride your blood sugar up, maybe half a banana or half an orange, half an apple. So the idea is you're getting a little bit of the, because the fruit sugar is still sugar, but it's a healthy sugar and it's got fiber in it, because the apple's got fiber in it, the orange got fiber in it. So we have to add them all together and link them together.
No, Siva, we know as a doctor or the nutritionist know, but for patient it is really very difficult, as you are rightly saying. But is there any possibility that some app which can be developed and which can show that whatever the food which you are taking, just take a click or take a photo of it. It will give you, if thousands of or millions of recipes are there which are already clicked, and it comes with an artificial intelligence that this much calorie, this much carb, this much glycemic index or glycemic load. Just a wild idea. Rajiv can give more inputs on it.
Yeah.
But this is just a wild idea. If it is available to the patient or the anyone, I mean the general public, they can know that how much calorie actually they are eating and how much glycemic load which they are going to have.
It doesn't
So,
break into.
Siva, before you, I would like to recall one experience of mine which changed a lot the way I think. My battery is low, my God. Is that a few years back in the US when I entered a bar, first they asked me that whether I'm 18 years of age, so I was very happy with that thing. Next, when I was served, I think it was fish and chips, and I think it was Philadelphia. When I was served fish and chips, there was a printout below it.
Yeah.
And I removed the printout to realize that the fish and chips together was 1900 calories. And they had a split to it. And though I loved it, I finished only half of it,
Yeah.
realizing that this is 1950 calories around. So I think means me as a specialist in this, I didn't realize what I was eating. Then patients and people with diabetes is very difficult. So what Bansi was saying is there is an app, but I don't know how accurate it is, and how Indian food can be. I don't think AI Indians will beat all AIs, but if something like that could come in, and I read about you, you are a chef who makes people eat the right kind of food. So if you could collaborate with RSSDI, and maybe we could come out with the right kind of recipes that one could have when they eat outdoors. That's most important, rather than at home. Over to you. So, sorry to butt in between.
Dr. Rajiv, you raised a really good point. And coming back to Dr. Banshi, there are already apps right now like MyFitnessPal, Calorie King. These are mainstream apps where if you were to search an apple, it will give you the calories and the carb amount, the nutritional amount, because these are used by people with diabetes. But I love the idea, what you had said, Dr. Rajiv, is to
I think her connection.
develop something that is self.
There's a slight glitch somewhere. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
But Ashish, we can think in India also to make this type of app or
No,
this type of thing.
Dr. Bansi, you will be surprised. Another, your RSSDI partner, Gautam Chopra Bito, is already started working on it, and this idea was floated sometime back to him. And since I am researching on food globally, and it's very important for us, especially us diabetics who are extremely passionate about food, and we
I am
can't
thinking
resist.
since long, but now I could meet you. So now this is the right time we should start. Amit
No,
is
the
the best
sooner
person,
I
and
think
along with you, and
the
if we
sooner
can
we
take
do
the
it,
Siva's also
yes,
input. Now I think
happily
she's on again.
we can happily do this.
Shiva, now you can continue. Yes.
We can happily do this. I see no reason why this cannot be done, because this is a great program for not only diabetics, it's also a fabulous program for heart patients and so many
And
others.
obesity, for everything. The diet is very, very
Everywhere.
important for
Absolutely.
everyone.
I
Ashish,
agree.
I just wanted to bring in one point that most of the time, when it comes to invisible carb, the app can help. But many of the times we are eating deliberately something which is very, very visible and not hidden at all. And when we are eating ice cream, when we are eating sweets, all kinds of sweets. We already know that this is something which is not, which is having a lot of calories and doesn't require any kind of calculation. And still, we are in that situation. What would you do?
Dr.
Two
Amit,
things.
you brought a good point. I'll just say you're right, because we're a community that constantly snacks, and because in my region we call it nurkutini. That means you're just constantly snacking all day, and we have fried food and we have murukus and all of this stuff. So at the end of the day, the app is fantastic because it could guide people, but yet if people know how many calories or carbohydrate one laddu has or one jalebi has and how much walking you have to do, that could be also kind of be part of that application. Because when you kind of think about the amount of calories, carbohydrate that's consumed, we need to counterbalance it with activities, because at the end of the day, there's that large component, the elephant in the room is fitness, because we're having all this carbohydrate in our body, but at the end of the day we need to figure out how do we uncheck that. We have insulin to take care of that carbohydrate if you're type 1 or type 2, if you're like me and Ashish on insulin pump. But if you're going to be on metformin, how's that going to work? Is that one pill going to take care of all the calorie intake? If you're, let's say if you're a person that consumes 160 grams of carbohydrate a day, okay? So 60 grams for breakfast, 40 for lunch, and 60 for dinner. And then maybe let's just say 15 for 2 snacks. So that's another 30. So that's, when you think about it, it may sound like a large amount of carbohydrate, but it's really not, because when you line them up and you look at it in the plate and how exactly what 60 grams looks like, it's not a lot. But there's a lot we can also do, because that's just one component. But the other side is people need to know that if you're going to do your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner this way, how are those carbohydrates going to come out? Even though that your insulin or your metformin or whatever your type 2 diabetes drugs you're taking is going to counterbalance that, but still we need to come to calorie reduction deficit, carbohydrate deficit, so that we can stop having, stress in our midsection, where that's where our problem is. Because if you look at a South Asian BMI and figure, we put a lot of strain in our midsection. And that's where we have putting the pressure on our pancreas to have insulin resistance. So end of the day, we need to work on that. So we need to have counterbalance, a lot of fitness to counterbalance a lot of the food that we take. So maybe perhaps part of that app, that could be another button they can press and say how much walking they need to do, or how much bicycling they have to do, or whatever. So they know that it's part of that package altogether.
You are very much. Yes, Ashish, please go ahead.
And also, Siva, in India, we have over 29 states, and every state and food varies from every 50 kilometers or maybe 100 kilometers here. And it varies because that is why we have this huge variety and array of cuisine that is available for us in India. But we also have the ancient wisdom of Ayurvedic and Unani medicine, which very few countries in the world have. And certain Ayurvedic medicines and certain Unani medicines and certain medicine practices are known to cure diabetes in a very big way, at least control diabetes and also their sugar levels to a large extent. And there is so much of food that is made out of these vegetables and greens and leafy greens, because they provide you iron, they provide you fiber, they provide you everything. There's this huge variety that can actually be done with Indian food and experimented. And also not only experimented, being a food historian, I know for a fact that there are so many hundreds of traditional Indian recipes which have been coming for hundreds and hundreds of years, which have been quoted in our holy scriptures also, are there to cure our mind, body, and soul. And it's very, very important. how we work at them and how we look at them. So I think there are some ways we can actually work, Shiva, at least you can holistically look into different forms of various Indian recipes, because as we know that every fifth person or sixth person in India today is affected directly or indirectly with diabetes, and that diabetes is the root cause. You and I have suffered, so when our families have also suffered because of the problem of diabetes, that we need to eat right. We need to eat something where we need to create a very holistic balance. And let me tell you that Indian food can provide that. Even if you're a meat eater, you should know what kind of meat to have at what time and how moderately. Because I'm a hardcore meat eater. I love my pound of flesh. But then you should know where to eat, what to eat, and which way. You don't have to, nothing is deep fried, shouldn't be deep fried. Or you should balance your oils, also the fat content in your food in the right perspective so that you don't bother. So I think when you come to India, you need to actually research on Indian cuisines. Like Parvati had come last time, and she's working with me. She's working on the herbs of India, because she's also now a culinary chef, and she's pursuing a passion for food. So these are things we should all combine our energies together and create a movement where we not only keep our culinary heritage alive, but at the same time make it healthy, make it palatable, and make it not only palatable, also make it absolutely delicious. This is what my thought process is.
Very well said, Ashish. Shiva, I would just like to ask you, and we would love to learn from your own experience, that you have been a diabetes advocate and working in Canada and advocating for diabetes Canada, especially for the South Asian population. So, what has been your experience when it comes to advocacy? What are the methods which you adopt? How do you actually advocate, and how do you measure the success of this advocacy campaign which you run in Canada?
That's an excellent question. Thank you so much, Dr. Amit. For example, I'm one of the founding members of the South Asian Diabetes Chapter for Diabetes Canada, and what we do is on a quarterly year basis. I mean, sorry, every year we have 3 to 4 meetings for the general public, and we have endocrinologists, dietitians, chefs, kinesiologists, you name it, physiotherapists, mental health specialists. What we do is they're all from the South Asian community who walk the walk, who speak the language. So we have people representing the community, and especially, doctors who can speak the language. And then what we do is we bring these meetings, on a Saturday. They're usually reserved for about 2-3 hours. And we do like a PowerPoint presentation. So this month, our topic might be healthy oils. Next month could be topic on how to lower fat. How, the following, could be about, a certain topic. So the idea is to bring information to the community in smaller bites, because the idea, end of the day, is it's really hard to hammer an issue because people get really scared and back off, because diabetes is also a stigma in our community. People don't come forward to share that they have diabetes because a lot of people believe diabetes, to share it's a stigma. It's there's a lot of shame and guilt in it. So a lot of people kind of feel they brought it on themselves. So it's a very difficult topic, but yet bringing it forward and talking about it and making people feel, hey, you're not in this alone. Diabetes is not about only having healthy blood sugars, but it's also about prevention. So it's about eating together as a whole family. Because, for example, people often ask my husband, what they eat for dinner at home. And the answer is, we tailor it so that what I eat is what my whole family eats. So it's also prevention for him and for my child, because the amount of type 2 diabetes in children youth is also going up. So at the end of the day, it's about what we put in, and how we do it. And so this is the advocacy work that I am doing here to bring awareness to the community. And I say culturally sensitive manner, meaning because in Canada, you can't just take what Ashish was talking about, taking, our old heritage of recipes and say, oh, you can't eat that. We can eat it, but what we're going to do is we're going to modify it.
I think it is a very, very interesting
We're
concept.
going to take that here, and we're going to reduce, yes, and reducing the salt, because salt is not so, fat is, the recipe and modify it so that people understand. It's just not only GI, but the whole way how we cook. So we're going to teach people how to use healthier oils, how to, instead of all the time frying, how do you do it? When you go to the restaurant, if you're going to enjoy your butter chicken and your naan, that's fine. That's a treat, but that's a treat. So then at home, the way you're going to practice is you're going to have a lot of fiber in your meal. So you're going to make your rotis, roasted with no oil, no fat. Instead of your potato, you're going to have sweet potato. You're going to eat the skin. So the idea is to kind of up the fiber. So we're not completely changing the recipe. We're just going to modify it and tweak it, because my philosophy is, if the food doesn't taste good, if the food isn't what it is, people will not change the way they eat. They'll just say, okay, I'll just take the medication and I'll just hope for the best. Because we need to change people's mind, which means we need to change the way people's habits are. And it's really hard. I'll tell you, being a South Indian, I had to change the way my parents were eating. They were eating white rice, many years ago. And I had to kind of tell them and say, we can't do that. We eat sambars and rasams. And they say, no, you can't eat that, the converted rice, because they say you can't mix it well. But I say, what? End of the day, it's mind over matter. So it's like re-engineering, reintroducing. We're not completely changing culturally our food, but we have to kind of make changes that makes sense for our body and also for our family. So that was my first change, is to change the way, our rice is consumed at our home, the way potatoes is consumed in our home, or maybe we reduce the amount of time the potato is used, and so on and so forth. But end of the day is also, to finish the last question, Dr. Amit, is to talk to the community about, incorporating fitness, because, we live in Canada and you live in a, let's say urban setting. It's really hard to go for a walk. So where can you get your walk? Maybe you can go to the temple. Maybe you go to the mosque, wherever there is a space that you can go and walk around the compound, 20 times, 30 times, because doing that in the street may not be safe, because we have to also look at the communities that are socially, economically challenged, that they may not have access to going to the gym. So how are they going to get their fitness? So all of these ideas is coming together and kind of brainstorming and saying, okay, then you go to the temple. I'll tell you for an example, when I go visit my family in the South, I go snaky after one day without no exercise, because they don't have gym equipments in their home. So guess what I do? After breakfast, I go to the temple. I take the flowers, I take the offering, I go to the temple. And then the main temple has, a big praharam, we say, and I walk about 20 times, because I know that I can walk in the road, because, there are buses and cars and all that kind of stuff. So I know I can do that. So we need to be able to kind of get people moving, on part and parcel with the way we eat. So it's, kind of all goes together.
A very, very nice thought. And it's really good to hear that, and good to know that. Shiva, Ashish, would you like to comment something on this?
No, I fully endorse what she says, but the only thing I would like to ask her this question, like a couple of questions. For example, certain diabetics like me, I suffer from severe diabetic neuropathy. I have a huge problem walking because my feet hurts all the time. I've also discussed this with Shiva.
Yeah.
Under these given circumstances, how do I get my body to move? Because mentally I'm very much alive. I'm sitting here perfectly fine. Then I have to soak my feet in hot water with Epsom salt. But since I travel a lot, I can't do that. I walk a little, I start getting tired very fast. At the same time, I don't want to do that because mentally I'm very strong. How do I increase that? Only my doctors can tell me. And Amit, you are my doctor, right? And I've been consulting you for almost a decade now. How do I look into this? Because I know that if you walk a little, my sugar levels have come down if I walk a little. I know that also, folks. It's a reality. I mean, it's a global fact which is absolutely clear. But what does person? How much can you get inspired? You get inspired, but you walk a few steps, suddenly you are in agony and pain. And how much can you continue living on painkillers, because painkillers are also detrimental, because people like us are still maintaining whatever, but our kidneys are bound to be affected no matter what you say, and because we are taking so many chemicals in our body, how do we resolve this situation? It's a catch 22 situation, really.
Absolutely. And it's
Ashish, you are
So
absolutely
you
right.
brought up a very good point, Ashish, that walking is not for everyone. The whole idea is that when we suggest walking, it's like the basic and the easiest to start with. But when patients have certain conditions, like you just described your condition and you've been following up with Amit, we definitely look at more creative ways of working out. So exercise is not only, walking is not the only thing. There are tons of other options also, and we always want a blend of exercising. It's just that when people are not doing anything, we encourage them that at least start with walking, at least start with 15 minutes of walking, and then we build on that. That's definitely not sufficient amount of exercise or the sufficient type of exercise to have to attain that kind of fitness, or even help with the glycemic goals. But it's something is better than nothing. That's the principle that we work on. Amit, if you want to elaborate further.
You are absolutely right, Dr. Purvi. And many times there are other options, as Dr. Purvi has mentioned, that we can use a stationary bike, we can use something like cycling. All these things can be done. And even if you can't
Swimming.
work, like, I would simply ask my patients that at least keep standing for 10 minutes after having your meal. Don't do anything. Don't sit and don't lie down. At least keep standing and just roam around your house. Don't take it as an exercise, but just make it a point that you don't sit for next 10 minutes.
and
So
and
That
improve.
is,
and
True.
another
that
point
is,
I can add is, whether you're sitting and reading or watching television or having a conversation, one of the things that also we talk about in our chapter meetings is, we don't have to really feel like we need to go out to the gym. Our Indian music, our Bollywood music is fabulous. We can move.
Absolutely.
We could, when we are chopping our vegetables or when we are cooking, we can move, or even sitting in our chair to kind of do some stretching, because even stretching is good. So end of the day, yoga comes from our subcontinent, and I'm not saying that everybody can do yoga, but the idea is, I absolutely agree with what Dr. Chalo just said, is that walking is just tip of the iceberg, but there are so many ways to be able to achieve that fitness, whether we are sitting down or stretching, or there's a lot of these elastic bands you can get now, where you could wrap it around your leg and pull, and so that it strengthens your body. You can put it on the doorknob and pull, and so on and so forth. There are so many different ways that we can do, because I was just using walking as an example, because I walked 1,000 kilometers across northern Spain. That's one of the things that I did 7 years ago, because I just didn't want to be a chef for diabetes, but I wanted to do something different and show people that long distance walking is possible, or just even walking. And I took up walking as a hobby, and I didn't realize that I can walk 30 kilometers a day. And that was one of the goals that I wanted to do. And it's not something that everybody can do. I've spoken in Hyderabad Medical University about this, when I was there last time in my India trip. And it is true. It is not something that everybody can do. But what I want to show is that it's mind over matter. If we can put our mind to it, we can do anything. So that's what I wanted to show, and say, hey, I'm a computer science graduate, chef who is not a fitness person, but I wanted to show, hey, guess what? We can do it. And so pick one that really resonates with you, and then go for it.
Well said. I think the whole idea is to break the sedentariness, if I can say that. So, very well described, and it's exemplary because, that inspires many more to take up uh, just simply walking if they are not able to do anything else, or if, time doesn't permit, or they don't have that confidence that we can, or maybe the physical, aspects don't allow them to engage in that kind of physical activity. But yes, we need to break the sedentariness and get started somewhere.
Absolutely. Well
Dr.
said,
Purvi, I
doctor.
would like to ask Shiva one very important aspect. As we know, Shiva, we have a lot of people who are not that much privileged, and they don't have access to all kind of foods. So, and a large part of our country in India, they still don't have access to all kinds of food, and
Yes.
so but they are also getting diabetes, and
Yes.
their staple food is rice, and their staple food is wheat. So, if we have to design something for them, if we want to prevent diabetes in the rural areas, in the underprivileged setting. So, what kind of recipe would you suggest as a culinary chef? And so, what they may be having very limited options. So, what can be the options for them?
Excellent, excellent question, Dr. Amit. And it's a very and this is the question we need to be asking, because a lot of us here who are in this table, we know that we can go get the quinoas and the
Yes,
and then the flax seeds,
superfoods.
the superfoods. Yeah, absolutely. But end of the day, when we're talking about an average household, or household in villages and rural settings, and when we have a high rate of diabetes, how do we counterbalance that? End of the day, like I talked about in the beginning, Dr. Amit, is that the way that we eat food has changed now. And now everything has made it so easy in India and in Canada, convenient food. So every corner, it's much cheaper for people to buy bad food than to eat our home cooked food. So then the end of the day, we kind of need to kind of look at, I remember, one of our family friends who used to entertain us. He had type 1 diabetes, actually. And the way that he would eat, he would give us a feast. And then in the kitchen, he would go and just have steamed chana. Okay. And then it would have a little bit of, asafoetida, some curry leaves. And that's what he ate as a meal, you know. And I remember that as a child, because to me, he figured out that the bowl of the chana was going to give him the healthy carbohydrate, the protein, and the fiber. So the food doesn't have to come in a formula of rice and dal and this and that. You have to make what is available to you work. So if you're in a rural setting, and if you have only access to rice or barley or millet, fox millets and things like that, my grandmother used to make like a gruel, okay? Or, so it's like making khichdi, but not making out of rice. You're making out of millet. So you're having a whole grain with fiber, and you're watching the portion. So you're eating, within that amount. And then that's going to give your body energy, and you're going to work in the field. It's going to give you energy. And guess what? Even if you have diabetes, that it's not going to spike your blood sugar. So because as South Asian, we are, it's almost like it's in our biology that we are susceptible to type 2 diabetes, and it's matter of our pancreas not functioning properly or insulin being absorbed properly. So at the end of the day, we need to kind of look at our biology and always be almost like, how do you say, preemptive, from starting from young age to eat so the whole family has to be part of that answer, right? So, and access to a legume, you might be having the same thing or something different, but the index is going to go up. or they're not been actually diagnosed. But the idea is you're eating healthier, but not giving into the fat of the food that's readily available at the roadside, because right now, unfortunately, one of the worst thing possible is, I'll say, about social media. I don't want to say TikTok. I don't want them to come after me, but we see so many videos of food gluttony, and that's our problem because everybody gets into that. When I was in India, I see North American food chains everywhere, and the food is even cheaper. So what happens is our kids are eating that than their home cooked healthier meals. So we need to reach the youth. We need to reach everybody and say, you know what, that for a treat is okay, but at the end of the day, eating at home and eating healthier is going to be the long run. But the youth, we're already losing them because they want to eat, what their friends are eating. So we need to kind of reach everybody and talk about our heritage and our food and keeping portion control. That is key.
Very well.
Amit, I'd like to make
Yes, yes, please.
just add a point here, and I think you just summarized it really, really brilliantly because that's where we try to go wrong when we try to, emulate some other culture or society which we probably cannot afford to, do so. So this just reminds me that when one of the largest American food companies or chains came to India, and I won't take the name in particular,
Yeah.
but when they came to India, initially, as per the American standards that they had, um, where they were expected to have the caloric breakdown, printed with each food item, they did that, and they used to give that with the meals that they were serving, and that was quite disastrous because as such, the awareness was so low at that point in India, maybe 25 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
that people started stopping to, buy their food or buy those
Mm-hmm.
meals and enjoy them that they were initially doing. So they stopped doing that because that was not mandated in India. So that was quite an eye opener that we need. I think awareness has come a long way, and now I think even the Indian FDI and regulations, they do mandate that you, not the restaurant cooked food, but at least the packed food has to come with the list of ingredients and the caloric breakdown.
It's mandatory for FSSAI
Yes,
numbers.
yes.
Everything have to be very mandatory. Also, having heard Shiva and having heard you, Dr. Purvi, I would like to intervene and say one thing. The rural setting. Earlier times, lifestyle and mindsets were very simple. And because our lifestyles and mindsets were very simple and stress free, they were working in the fields, things were completely different. Currently, what has happened is also poverty is playing a very important role, right? In any case, people in villages cannot afford to eat, they still eat healthy than the rural people. In fact, it's the urban people who are eating a lot of junk food. Even today in villages, they still eat healthy. A lot of them work in farms. So their diabetic level, the main key, according to me, is not food in the villages. More importantly, is the stress and the poverty that they're going through. Because stress, I have discovered, moment I'm under stress, my sugar levels spike up
Yeah.
unwarrantedly. So,
Yeah.
I have to create a balance between my stress levels and my food habits. If I'm able to create that and my stress is less, my sugars automatically come down. I mean,
Yes.
it's and I've experienced this for 30 years now as a diabetic, right? So I think these are certain factors which are very important. Coming to junk food, we're obsessed because everybody's lockdown has taken its toll. The rate of diabetes has gone up many, many fold, not only because they're sitting at home or lack of exercise is also not the only key. It's also they're ordering out, they're watching television all the time, and junk food is playing a very important role. They have to create a balance. Number two, they've also Indianized, certain companies which came from abroad,
Yes.
for example, Domino's or KFCs and others, they're not serving original recipes. They are serving recipes according to the Indian palate, which sells, right? If you're serving, I mean, can you imagine something as ridiculous as, butter chicken pizza and stuff like that? What do you expect? You have cheese in already in that, plus you have all that cream going in, plus you have all that paneer makhani pizza. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. They have screwed up the completely. I'm sorry to say this, but they've screwed up the original recipes and made a mockery out of the whole thing, just to suit the palate of the Indian people. Now, if you are having pizza, on top of it there's cheese, there's tomato, and on top of it there's, there's also paneer makhani or stuff like that. What do you expect? Your calorie intake has become double. But yes, there are innovative ways. You can also make a healthy pizza. There's nothing wrong with it. Use multigrain. Use breads with low glycemic index. It works out well. I mean, I'm talking for urban setting. Rural setting, everybody's diet was also based on a lot of millets. The quality of rice was completely organic. The
Yes.
food was fresh vegetables they would get. Even the dal, the lentils, because they were never no department stores. Whatever was produced in their farm or at a local shop, they would just buy fresh stuff and use it in their homes. So I think rural eating was far more healthy than what it is as far as the urban. The biggest problem is low income, unemployment to a large extent. Farmlands are going away left, right, and center because of urbanization everywhere. Groundwater is depleted. Farmers don't know what to do. There's a huge amount of unemployment currently because of all this natural circumstances that took place. So these are the key factors I personally feel for enhancement of diabetes more than anything else. We also need to work on how to reduce our stress levels, because along with medicine we need to ensure that our mind is at peace, as at ease. Only then we will be able to enhance the cure of diabetes. I think RSSDI can play a very important role in stress management also, as one of the key ingredients, other than medication and stuff like that. That's my sort of advice or my thought process.
Thank you.
Ashish, we take your input very seriously, and Dr. Purvi and our president, Dr. Bansi, is also listening to your comments, and I'm sure he will definitely come up with something when it comes to management of stress in people with diabetes, and we definitely look forward for that. One important thing is that I would like to ask Shiva that, as Bansi sir has already said, that we can work together in many ways, and in future we would look forward to you that how we can work with Diabetes Canada and South Asian chapter and the other organizations to increase the advocacy level and the other and partner in other ways also. And since we are nearing our time, it has almost been an hour, and it has been an excellent conversation that has been going on for such a long time. I will request Dr. Purvi to make a final comment. Before that, I will request our president, Dr. Bansi Sabu, to come in and say a few words, and before we conclude the show.
First of all, big thank to Amit, to invite Siva for this wonderful show. So,
It is Ashish only, and it is
and
Ashish.
yes, I am just going to give thanks because Ashish is the key person to get Siva here on our platform. So, thanks, Ashish. Thank you, Siva, for thanking you for coming on this platform and educating all our listeners and audience who are follower of our RSSDI Diabetes Bytes. So I'm really thankful to you. And we would like to collaborate with you and Ashish if we can have something which is really very educational, some sort of a app or either some material which we can provide to our patients or to general public or to the layman also, to know more about the carbs, to know more about the simple carbs, to know more about the healthy diet, which is our major challenge. Everything whatever is available at this point of time in market or what we can buy from the restaurants and hotels, most of the time they are unhealthy. So I mean, how to create more unhealthy environment in restaurant or whatever which we are eating. There was a long back, I mean, Purvi is here, Raji was before some time, he was also there. They run a United Diabetes Forum, and in that they had come out with a very unique idea with a blue dot. So I just remember that blue dot concept is like in a restaurant when you go, you get a green dot when something which is vegetarian, and you get a red dot in front of it if it is a non-vegetarian. And now this concept is very well established. I mean, across the country, wherever there is a green dot, people are confident like me who is a pure vegetarian. "Okay, this is vegetarian," or somewhere it is red dot, it means it is that. We wanted to come out with a concept. I mean, that was initiated by the group United Diabetes Forum, but something, whatever is done for the society, we all can take it up. And we thought of we should come out with a blue dot. Blue dot means it is in healthy food. So if something in that food item in the menu, if on the left side, if it is written blue, it means this is an healthy food. And if we
Diabetic
can
friendly.
come out with some of the
Diabetes friendly.
recipes, so it is, we
Diabetic
can call it
friendly.
diabetes friendly, but now Purvi overall, I mean, something which
Yeah,
is healthy. I mean,
I agree, sir.
diabetes friendly will come only for sugar free or something like that, but it contains either a low calorie with complex carbohydrate, with a high protein and with more fiber, something a recipe. Otherwise, if I just make it a diabetes friendly diet, then it will contain only
It
few
can be
items,
missed.
and it will be always with sugar free. But
Yeah.
if
You
we make
said
it
it.
healthy, healthy mean it is healthy for obese person, healthy for diabetes person, healthy for heart patients, or overall a healthy concept. If we can come out with that blue dot, something we can work, and if we can get the, this blue dot can be, I mean, what should I say, endorsed by Indian some nutrition official government agency or some international agency, where I am sure Ashish can help us,
You
something
need
which
that
will be for the society. This
endorsement.
blue
In
dot
fact,
concept also we can create, and we can invite all across the country, all restaurant owner, and on their own, I mean, whatever the recipe which you are providing to your customer, out of 100, you may have only 20 recipe which may be healthy, which may be, but at least you write it. Let people to make aware that this is something which is healthy. So like when I am going in a restaurant, like you can choose sugar free or something like a low sugar calorie sweetener instead of a regular sugar, so I feel that I am trying to take a low calorie item. Similar way, if I take a recipe which is having a blue dot, I think it will make some sense. That's my just request. With this, I end. I once again thank you, Ashish Bhai and Shiva, for
thank
this
you.
wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you
Yes,
so
Ashish.
much.
Sorry, sorry, your comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's a great idea.
I
I
think on that
Yes.
high note, I don't want to add anything more because Dr. Banshi has just said it, and he's so energizing because even at 10 p.m. in the night, he's
I
still
have one
sitting
more
in the
meeting.
clinic. Yes, when he's sitting in the clinic, probably not had dinner as well, but so energetically talking about the blue dot concept. So yes, I think both Siva and Ashish have done that to him, and Amit as well. So thank you, Amit. I know you've been how busy you've been today. So thank you very much for this fantastic session. And I think Siva wanted to make some final
yes,
Yes,
yes.
Shiva
comments.
Please
and
go ahead.
Ashish, if you want to make any comment on Blue Dot.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I will get the restaurant there's a very big apex body called Federation of Restaurant Owners Association of India, which is the largest body here. We will send them a suggestion, and I will tell them to collaborate with all of you, and also endorse the brand of RSSDI if they can in their menus, and actually work on the blue dot. It's workable, and
That
also 5-star hotels, because I know so many hotel chains who will say
if we
top.
can do this thing, I will be highly obliged to you, Ashish. I mean,
You
it's
don't
a
have to
great
Go,
do
thing
more.
if you are
Ashish,
going to give
go.
me a month of
Yes,
October.
that's
It's
such a
my
great
duty, sir,
And
initiative.
and I'm
originally,
sure.
this concept was from the United Diabetic Federation, so you need not to endorse with ID. I mean, RSSDA does not want to take the whole credit. I am just the. I mean, it's not the for the.
It's not a question.
I mean, organization is interested. We want to do it for public, for general person, for layman,
That's
to increase or
not a
improve the
question.
care for diabetes as well as for obesity, for everything. So it is not for that because some organization want to take the credit. Even the honors association, we can teach them, we can educate them, and like Siva and you, Ashish, if you can talk on behalf of us, that's more than enough. But if they accept it, it is nothing like it.
fact, I'm also thinking of inviting some other celebrity chefs to endorse this idea, because they are the ones who can take. They are the ones who design menus. All the people who are working on all the culinary experts, I can we can have a separate session for them and tell them the importance
Patiga?
and talk about the importance, and maybe Amit, you and I can sit down and work on a webinar
Anything.
well and
Yeah.
invite about 10 top hospitality
No, Ashish, you have
content.
to invite us next time in your restaurant. Me and Amit will come to sit down with you.
No, I have a home. I don't run a restaurant. I can't sell food. I'm very emotional about food. Food is all about love and passion. It's not about economics. But importantly, if you come home, you're more than welcome. I
Oh, yes.
promise you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Ashish, we will definitely have a party at your home. RSSDI party coming to your home and enjoying
Most
the delicacies.
No, we will invite Ashish at our home. Yes, Siva, you want to
Yes,
make
sir.
some comment?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
absolutely. I think it's such a beautiful idea. I love the blue dot idea because, a blue is a universal for diabetes symbol around across the world, and having that blue symbol is fantastic. And I think, when you have it as a blue symbol, even, when you were talking about desserts or anything that's diabetes, everything can be universal under the blue dot, because they always say the healthy eating that we do for diabetes kind of crosses the boundaries of cardiovascular diseases and eating for other diseases, because diabetes diet is one of the most healthiest diet in the whole world, because it used to be all about unprocessed. So if we can kind of get under the blanket of blue dot, I think heart and stroke and obesity health, they all would fall into that, because I think it's pretty universal and it's such an amazing undertaking. And any help you need, I'm there to help or develop recipes, re-engineer the food. I have my test kitchen there, and we can do it, because the idea is, I think of myself as a mad scientist, because it has to be good on my blood sugar morning till evening. And when I go to bed, if my blood sugar is fantastic, I'm not going to have any hypo or hyper at night, then I've done my job. So I am so happy to be part of this discussion. I'm so humbled that you all asked me to join you. And thank you, Ashish, and Dr. Amit, Dr. Banshi, and Dr. Puvi for letting me come and have this amazing conversation. This conversation needs to happen more, because we need to tackle this disease. And I'm happy to be part of any volume you need.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva, for the very elaborative comment on this, and we definitely look forward to work together, and we will take it forward. And I will be in touch with Ashish, and we all can be in touch. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone. Good night. And once he said, now you can have your dinner. We sorry for holding you back in your office
Thank
for an
you.
hour. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you.
for the
Thank
effort.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.